Welcome home, brave heroes. I am Amalgamash, and this is AshQuest. Today, I'd like to share with you a board on which I could play my favorite dungeon crawler, HeroQuest. But first, we'll have to get this board out of the way. This is a Roll to Move mat from Ian Schofield over at Roll to Move Mats, and I'll absolutely put a link to his DrivethruRPG.com store page in the description below. This map is sold as a PDF and was very kindly provided by Ian. He printed this, or had this printed, on a 3x3 foot neoprene mat in order for it to be used for its intended purpose. The quality of the print was something he wasn't sure about because he used a printing service, Inked Gaming in this case, for the first time, which is US based, while Ian's in the UK. While it was questionable how that would turn out, I think it turned out fantastic. So I would love to extend my shout out to Inked Gaming for printing this 3x3 massive map onto this neoprene mat. The details, the quality of the print are very good. They are probably going to look crisper on the PDF. They'll look just a teensy bit blurrier if you're getting up close and personal with the details on the mat while you are playing or while you're looking at the mat in person. But otherwise, I think that it stands up, and it is just as good as any neoprene printing that I have seen on anything else. I haven't owned any neoprene wargaming mats. Well, I've owned mouse pads, and that's it. That's my experience with neoprene. But the print looks just as good as any mousepad print, so I have to give it props there, and it's even better because it's a dungeon in which I can crawl. So let's get a good look at this and put some furniture and heroes down and maybe play a little bit of HeroQuest. Now, I will only be able to provide my experience with this mat, which was printed through Inked Gaming. I unfortunately don't live near a printing shop, at least not one that can handle a 3 foot by 3 foot size of neoprene, so I can't exactly compare this to other neoprene mats. If you order the PDF for this and get it printed, you may end up with different results. Things like that I won't be able to answer. The seller won't necessarily be able to answer except for his own experience using his preferred printing service. But these are sold as PDFs. So anyways, again, good quality. You'll notice that it's actually bigger than my table. It's 3 foot by 3 foot. My table is 30 inches. So I've got 6 inches of hang off, which works out great because the bottom of this mat is actually quite a bit of extra space. It's just here to be utilized however you see fit. You could use this as an outdoor portion of the dungeon that you're playing. You could have this somehow be a separator. You could have the bottom part be a completely separate section of the dungeon. You could store all of your cards here. You could have your heroes share a space for resources. You could have the dungeon master or evil wizard player set up his screen here. It depends on how you like to play your HeroQuest game or other dungeon crawlers. This would be compatible with anything that accepts a 1 inch by 1 inch square, because that is exactly how these squares are printed on this mat. And I can imagine if you did some clever scaling, you could get these squares down to 15/16 of an inch by resizing the PDF, and you could get your printer to print off a mat that would be perfectly compatible with the classic HeroQuest as well. You'd also end up with a smaller mat. You'd probably still have to print it on a 3x3 and then cut the mat. I don't know how all of that works. I don't know what mat standard sizes are. You will also notice this is not a one-to-one recreation of the HeroQuest map specifically. There are a lot of inconsistencies and differences that you'd have to take into consideration if you're planning on translating your HeroQuest game to this mat. Not to say that it can't be done, and Enterprising Zargon can certainly set everything up exactly the way that they intend to do so, but there will be little things like how the tiling and the spacing of the walls included into the map, rather than encroaching on the tiles. Every wall has its own 1x1 tile that it takes up completely, has caused the corridor on the left side to open up, and the central corridors vertically are 3 tiles wide instead of 2. It may seem like it's kind of difficult to discern where the tiles are, but actually Ian has very small white crosshairs in the vertices of each tile, so you know exactly where every tile is going to be. So one of the big pros of having the wall take up its own tile is now the door will no longer encroach onto the tile. So if we want to put a door right in the center there, we've got a doorway that takes up its own entire tile. Now, whether you would choose to say, count this as a tile, I certainly wouldn't, for your heroes to walk through. If you had something flat, like a tile that represented a door, that would be something completely different. You'd be able to work with that. You'd be able to place heroes and monsters on top of that tile and treat that tile as a space. But with the door being here, you may have to work out a little bit something different, because even though this takes up an entire tile, your heroes won't be able to fit through the door. This is just me talking about the complexity of using a space, any sort of tabletop space, with a map that has walls that take up one by one tiles in and of themselves, versus using a 3D door resource such as those that come with HeroQuest. Otherwise, the aesthetics of this are stunning. This is the latest map that has been designed and is on offer as of the time of recording this video, and it may bear a striking resemblance to a theme of a very foreboding moon rising into the sky, causing all sorts of trouble across the land. That is certainly what I get from it. But all of our furniture fits wonderfully. I'm going to take some of the tiles that come with the new edition of HeroQuest and place them around this map. Now, right away, I can tell you that having the doors be out of the way and onto their own tiles, it definitely gives a sense of you have a little bit more control as an evil wizard player. You have a little bit less stuff encroaching and falling on each other. You've got tiles that you can now pick up if they need to be modular and mobile, and move them without disturbing other things in or around the room. You have a setup for a lot of very interesting scenarios that were not possible before. Kind of no matter what kind of homebrewing you were doing, you're always limited to very specific dimensions of a board unless you plan out how to use features of that board in different ways, such as pretending that walls don't exist and so on. But here, there's much less of a need to do that. You are simply able to place, and that's it. My HeroQuest room tiles fit perfectly in the spaces provided here. We have the Frozen Horrors sort of throne room that's supposed to go into the center of the board, and it fits wonderfully there. Yes, I'm flexing Joe Manganiello's dragon. The board design has a bit of flair. The map is very colorful. It does have sort of a color theme going on, a specific palette, but it does match my existing tiles very well. I think that, if anything, stepping into this room now has even more impact than it did before, because there is a muting of color. There is a bleakness of the future that lies ahead now when you step into this room. Not that there wasn't before. Before, you were stepping off of a bleak board into a room that had a little bit more activity. Bleak, but now with skulls. It's just a different feeling, that's all it is. My hideout tile is perfectly suited to be placed in this center square, and also provides just the same feeling of, well, now I'm in a safe place, away from all of the cool colors of the dungeon, into the warm colored hideout spot, where I can conduct my alchemy and napping in peace. With Against the Ogre Horde coming out, it's going to be very interesting to use those tiles with mats like this one and alternate boards, because I know that it has a tile that's supposed to take up quite a bit of the corner of the board, not just the center room, but actually replace the corner of the board with some outdoor scene. You can still do some of that stuff to an extent here, although now the part of the tile that is supposed to extend past into the corridor actually just takes up the wall instead, because the wall's an entire tile, so it's a bit more of an imagination stretch. But I mean, it's nothing at all for an enterprising Zargon to completely fix that. So I want to thank Ian again very much for his extremely kind, generous offering to the channel. This is a mat that I would very much love to use in my next game of HeroQuest, and who knows, maybe it will feature in some upcoming quest plays right here on the channel. So I want to thank Ian again very much for his extremely kind and generous offering of this mat to the channel. And if you like what you see, The quality of this mat, it was printed using Inked Gaming, which is US based. So if you're in the US, you can purchase PDF or all of them from Ian, go to Inked Gaming and get them printed off. I think for a mat this size, it's around 55 USD before shipping to have this printed off. Is that worth it? That is a question that only you can answer. They do have a couple of add-on services as well. So if you're leery about how it could look, or you would like the positioning edited or anything like that, they've got that service as an add-on for an additional cost. Tell me what you think about this, Brave Heroes, in the comments below. And as always, have a fantastic rest of your day, and bye for now.